What's going on, man? What's happening, man? This E. Smith with Universal Thought Podcast, man. Today we got Van Turner that's gonna come in. He's gonna give us some good information, man, on the new hospital that they're building. They turning the old commercial appeal building into a hospital, so that's coming in the near future. We got a lot of stuff going on in the city of Memphis, man. He's gonna break it down. Of course, y'all know Van Turner from he actually ran against Paul and 16 other candidates for mayor. Of course, Paul won. And also he's the former commissioner. He served his 2 years, and now he's he's still active in the city of Memphis, man. So we're about to get some good information from him. Y'all tune in for Universal Thought Podcast. All right, man, welcome back to the Universal Thought Podcast, man, where we share universal thoughts, ideas, concepts, philosophies, and all around good conversations. And man, we got a special guest in the house. Well, first off, what's going on, Chris, my co-host? What's going on, brother?
Not much, just good rest.
Good rest? Oh, okay. We have my other co-host, my partner, my brother, Dre. He couldn't be here, but I got somebody real special in the house, man. So listen, we've been actually on this run, really trying to get perspectives of different leaders and so on and so forth in the city of Memphis. And this is somebody that was brought to my attention. Now, I actually didn't know. I found out who he was during the campaign run where he was running for mayor. That's when I seen who he was. He had a very, very strong presence. So Van Turner actually practiced law in the area of civil and family law mediations, civil litigations, business transactions, government relations, municipal law, and estate planning. Before joining Turnerfield, right? Turnerfield.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Turner was a counselor at Butler, Snow, Amara, and Canada and Stevens, PLLC.
Yep.
And prior to that, Attorney Turner served as an Associate General Counsel of the Board of Education of the Memphis City Schools and as a judicial law clerk. Mr. Turner formerly served the public as the Shelby County Commissioner for the District 12. Commissioner Turner participates and has served on the board of directors for several legal and professional organizations, including the American Bar Association, the National Bar Association, the Tennessee Bar Association, the Mississippi Bar Association, and the Memphis Bar Association. Wow, okay. And he ran up against 16 other candidates for the position of mayor, by the likes of Carnita Atwater, Jennings Bernard, Floyd Bonner, Judge Joe Brown, Kendra Calico, Karen Camper, J.W. Gibson, Reggie Hall, James Harvey, Willie Harrington, Michelle McKissick, Brandy Price, Justina Ragland, Takiva Shaw, Derek Wynn, and of course, Paul Young. So without further ado, man, we have Mr. Van Turner in the house, man. How you doing, brother?
All right, appreciate you, man.
I appreciate you, man.
That's a lot to intake, isn't it?
Yeah, man.
Oh yeah.
Has a very extensive resume, man. So you're an attorney.
I'm an attorney.
You're still.
Yes, sir. Still practicing.
So how long have you actually been an attorney? And what made you get into law? Yeah.
So I majored in English, and my mother was an English teacher and guidance counselor at Treadwell High. So she was there with Penny Hardaway and Elliot Perry.
Okay.
My father was a math teacher at Whitehaven High. I went to Whitehaven. Mm-hmm. And so it was either going to be English or math. I chose English. And with that, you really, back then, got into English to teach. Right. So that was my first career choice. Both my parents were educators, and I thought that's what I would do. And then I took a class called Constitutional Law, and I just fell in love with it. And so I changed my major in Morehouse from English to English going into education to English pre-law. And I had a good professor at Morehouse that said, hey, you can always get your law degree, then go back and teach. And so she said, do what is hardest first.
Right.
And what was hardest was obtaining a law degree and becoming a lawyer. So that's what I did. And I went to University of Tennessee College of Law in Knoxville.
Okay.
And I taught. You know, after law school, I practiced law, and I taught at the University of Memphis School of Law. I taught legal writing for a couple of years. I also taught business law at Lemoyne College, and I taught paralegal studies at Southwest Community College. So it worked out in the end, and that advice that I got was the right advice. Do what's hardest first, and then you could always add teaching after you obtain the law degree. So that's how I got to where I am.
Awesome. Did that, man. And you ran for mayor. So
Yes,
we're gonna get right into it, man. So you running for mayor, like what actually made you, first off, this is a two-part question.
Yeah.
What made you get into politics, and what made you want to become, like, I guess, part of the leadership role in Memphis as the mayor?
Right. So my cousin, and he was like an uncle, but he was really my cousin, was the first quote-unquote politician in the family. My mother's family is out of Indianola, Sunflower County, Mississippi.
Okay.
If you know anything about Indianola, that's where B.B. King is from. There's a museum dedicated to him in Indianola, and the family home was actually on B.B. King Road.
Okay.
And so my uncle, I call him, about to say uncle, but my cousin, Bill Richardson, was the first African American to hold the state of representatives seat out of Indianola. Up to when he had run and won in the 80s, it was all white, although the town was black. And so he ran, and I saw the campaign knocking on doors. We used to have a cup to say William Bill Richardson for state rep, whatever that seat was. I think it was 31. And he had a saying from the cotton field to Capitol Hill, because they were all sharecroppers back then. You know, not too far removed from slavery. So just to see what he fought for African American people. He fought for those who had been downtrodden and done wrong and had been sharecropping and all of those social ills and racism that individuals face in Mississippi. He carried that with him to Capitol Hill and fought for us.
Right.
And so I saw that as a young man and said, hey, that's something that I would want to do one day. And so I moved back to town, and a friend of mine, his name is Cardell Orrin, asked if I wanted to be parliamentarian of the Shelby County Democratic Party. That was 07. I said yes. Barack Obama wins president in 08. And then in 09, after serving as parliamentarian, I said, well, I want to do it. If we can have the first black president of the United States, something that they said would never be done, let me go ahead just a year into politics and see if I could become the next chair. So I ran for Democratic Party chair in 09 and won. And that's a 2-year term. I ran again in 2011 and won. And then in 2013, the county commission seat that I eventually won became open. So I ran for county commission in 14, held it to 22. Then in 22, I announced my candidacy for Memphis mayor, which was in 23.
Right.
And so the beginning of my journey starts with my cousin, God rest his soul. He died from lung cancer a while back. But it starts with Bill Richardson, from the cotton fields to Capitol Hill.
Right.
And then you track that all the way through my stint as president of NACP, taking down the Confederate monuments, working on behalf of the family of Tyree Nichols so that they could obtain justice, working with attorney Ben Crump. And so that comes full circle to where I am now.
Okay.
This is great. You know, the more and more he talked, the more and more I'm remembering you.
Yes, sir.
By name, not off of just personally meeting.
Yes, sir.
But the name now is registering.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, 'cause you much older than me. You much older than me.
No, not much.
Yeah.
But you said you was so was that your motto? What your motto when you was running was from the?
Oh no, that was just my cousin's motto. My motto was Ban Can.
Okay, I got you.
Ban Can.
Okay.
You know, and so that was what I ran on. And you know, man, I don't begrudge the fact that I lost, and I am not in any way upset that I ran. If I could do it over again, I would do it, because I think I presented issues which were important issues that everyone else had to address. At the time, crime has spiked, if you recall, the worst homicide rate we have ever had in Memphis. And so everyone was saying, hey, what's going on, and throwing their hands up in the air. And then I said, well, look at poverty. How do you tell a community that you divested resources, a community where the schools are falling apart, a community where the streets are torn up, there are no community centers, nothing for our young people.
Right.
All the funding goes into the quote-unquote right neighborhoods and communities, but that money is not flowing into Orange Mound, North Memphis, Whitehaven, South Memphis, and then point the finger and say, ooh, look how bad they are, look at all the crime.
Right.
Well, the two are related. And so instead of just talking about how bad crime is or was, I said, let's turn the issue to poverty and where we are investing our resources. If you invest resources in a community, into the youth, you will see a different outcome.
Right.
And so I was very happy to debate that issue and get that issue out there on the forefront during the campaign.
And I wish I would have seen that debate too, man. I was actually on Harrington's campaign team.
Yes, sir.
So been knowing him for a while, and I was all for Harrington.
Yes, sir.
But I also knew that there was some other people with some good ideas. I actually been knowing Paul since we was in high school as well. But I just have still old school traditions that I feel like Harrington could have been he could have implemented that. But just hearing you talk, that issue alone, I felt like should have been primary for really any candidate that was running.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But when you get to talking about other things outside, like ignoring, those like obvious issues, that turned me off. You know what I'm saying? But let me ask you this, since you said that, what would have been your approach toward even using technology, because they into technology now, using technology as a means of trying to combat the crime and stuff like that?
Well, I think what you're seeing now is some of the things I would have implemented using drones to be in areas at places quicker than the officers can physically be at. Using that to sort of monitor situations, I thought was a good idea. As you know, the complement of officers is down because of the cuts to the budget and so forth. In 15, many officers left. And so where you were really supposed to have about 2,500 officers, I think the complement was hovering around 1,800 or 1,900. So we were down 300 or 400 officers. So that's another thing that you had to look at. Officers couldn't be everywhere where all the crime was. It's like all the officers would be in South Memphis, but all the stores and the crime and the carjackings were in North Memphis.
Right. It's
like the young people had a crystal ball and knew where the officers would be, and they went the other way, took down what they had to take down. By the time you got out there, they were gone.
Right.
So the drones was good. Also, just community policing and investing more in our youth. The midnight basketball works. Our wraparound services at our community centers work. One of my thoughts was to have each of the community centers, which are strategically placed in all of our communities, serve as centers to assist that community much more than what they were doing back then.
Right.
I envision having 24-hour community centers, wraparound services, food pantries in those community centers. If someone had minor medical needs, you could go to the community center, and it'd just be a hub or an extension of the city of Memphis. City of Memphis had to reach out into these communities and lift those communities up. The communities could not and should not have to come downtown to get the services that they needed.
Right.
Those services should be pushed out into North Memphis, South Memphis, so on and so forth, so that those community centers served as hubs to assist the community. And in fact, there was a study, I think, up in the Bronx at a certain project where they did that. They got a hold of the community center, they opened it up for 24 hours, food pantry, all the resources needed in the community, and the crime was cut in half.
Where was this?
This is, I think, up in the Bronx. There was I was very familiar with the study during the campaign. I have to locate it and I can send it to you.
Okay.
But it was an actual study, and through that investment of resources in the community, through the community center, the crime went down drastically.
Yeah, 'cause I think that's kind of like what's happening with Leicester now, the rebuild of Leicester.
Yes, sir.
Do you think this can be every community center in every neighborhood, or would it be take too much for every neighborhood community center to be rebuilt like that?
No, I don't think every community center needs to look like what Leicester
It's doing.
is doing.
Mm-hmm.
That's the model. And that's in the Binghamton area. My father graduated from Leicester and is from Binghamton. And so I think that needs to be replicated in all of our communities. And that's how you really reach the people and you start the change that's needed. You know, it's either going to happen one way or the other. You're going to keep divesting and not having what's needed in our communities, and you're dealing with the crime and all the ills that come along with it, or you're going to invest in our communities, in our schools, in our young people, and you're going to see the community that we all want. There's no middle ground right there.
So with that being asked, I don't want to sound insensitive with this question.
Right.
But do you think closing public housing will actually help bring the crime rate down in certain neighborhoods, or will you think that hurt?
You know, that was a push to beautify and centralize the downtown. They were trying to, at the time, attract more people to downtown. And as you stated, the projects were in the way because you didn't want to be downtown and come downtown, and you know, you had that right next door to you. So they took down all the projects. They dispersed everyone out into Whitehaven, Hickory Hill, North Memphis, gave them the Section 8 credits, and they moved into those communities. And so at the end of the day, I think allowing people to have a home, to have a yard, to be a homeowner is good, because that's where we want to push people. And so in the end, I don't know if it was a bad idea. Now in those neighborhoods where they took the projects down, they built homes and they built mixed-use properties, and those individuals who have been pushed out were not able to go back in because they were priced out. Now I think that was wrong. No, they got a name for that, gentrification.
Yeah, so.
You know what I'm saying? So if this is something that you want to do for the benefit of the community, then the community, the whole community, everyone in the community should be allowed to benefit. Don't move them out when you make it nice. Allow them to be in those nice areas and to realize the dream along with you. And if there are certain issues that need to be addressed, let's address those issues, not put our heads in the sand and hope that those issues will go away.
Because I think it was, me personally, if you see some of the neighborhoods, like a lot of the abandoned houses that was torn down eventually, people that can live in a more wealthy neighborhood, they'll just buy the property and build right there and come and move in.
Right.
Do you think it can be like a program for the underprivileged to juice them programs to get them type of grants to buy their property and have them houses built?
Yeah, I think so. And what they're telling people now is if you stay in Orange Mountain, don't sell. Because the development is coming there. If you're in certain areas in South Memphis, don't sell. Keep the family home.
Right.
Redevelop it. Because that growth is coming to your neighborhood, and the same grants and the same things that are used for others who are coming into our community can be used for those who are already in the community. And so I love that thought, and I'm glad there was a campaign to not sell your property, because those properties are going to be valuable as time goes on, especially in those areas which are adjacent and very close to downtown.
And that's, see, I'm from Orange Mountain, and I want to see, you know, my community where I grew up at actually develop into something, and the people can still enjoy the fruits of what was coming instead of being driven out of the community.
Correct.
I want to see that.
Right.
So I'm glad you said that too. As far as the communities, like the community centers and stuff like that, how much like effort would they have to put into getting people to either volunteer, or are those jobs opening up? Like, how would that actually work?
You know, Andrew Young, Ambassador Andrew Young, who was an ambassador and also a mayor in Atlanta talked about Lakewood Amphitheater, and I remember Lakewood. And so what he did, he wanted to put a project in the community, and everyone told Mayor Young that they would tear the place up, because these, Southwest Atlanta, it's South Memphis for us, right?
Right.
And so if you put something nice in there, the people would tear it up. He said no. His thought process was, if we put it in there, we hire from the community, and then they will protect what was built. The gangsters will say, no, you do what you want out there. You don't come to buy stuff, because I got a cousin, a younger brother, who I want to see make it. He's working here. So this is off limits. No gang warfare right here. And it worked. And to this day, you still have Lakewood Amphitheater that's still having shows and doing what it's done. Take that same philosophy to our community centers. Hire from the neighborhood. Allow those individuals that we would, in some instances, write off, put them in the community center. Allow them to be mentors and volunteers. And I think you would see a difference. And the community would protect that area. Hands off.
Right.
Don't come here.
Yeah.
Everybody don't need to end up like us. Allow these young babies to have a chance, so they don't end up like us. And so we protect this. All that stuff on that side, none of that crosses this side. And you'll see that. And I think if that was done in each of the communities, no matter how tough those communities are, if you hire from within and supported those individuals and supported those communities, they will protect the community center.
I can believe that. Because you look at Leicester, you have a project where it used to have two.
Right.
Since they got rid of Tillman Cove and rebuilt those. Yeah. But the good thing I do like about what they did with Tillman Cove, the people that was trying to get out of Red Oak, they allowed them to come to Tillman Cove. Right. Not all of them, but some. Yeah. But like you said, look at Leicester. Leicester never been vandalized, broken into, or anything, and you got a project right across the street.
Right.
Because everybody that worked in Leicester was from Binghamton. Right. He even would go down to Mr. Casey. Yeah. Right. I think he's there about 50, 60 years before he just retired about a year or two ago. Yeah. And Miss Geneva Davis, I think she's still there. The boxing coach, he passed a couple of, but everybody that worked in Leicester, they was all from Binghamton. And it never was a problem. If you hungry, come to the center and get you something to eat.
Right.
You didn't want to ride with them, come to the center and get one of these here. So Leicester has been good for a lot of people. So I understand that. So that would be my main concern. What would it take for every community to have that?
Right. Well, we need to fund it, and as a commissioner for 8 years, your priorities dictate how you do your budget. So my priority is, I want every neighborhood community in Memphis to experience what Binghamton experiences with Leicester. And so I would fight to keep that to put that in the budget. That's what needs to be in the budget. Let's go and redo the community centers in all of our communities. And if that's a priority, let me go get 6 other votes and let's put that in the budget. I got Willie Brooks at the time, you up in North Memphis. Let's see what we can do for you up in North Memphis. I had Eddie Jones in Westwood. Let's go and do the same thing, Westwood. I had other commissioners who were from Orange Mound and in other areas of the city. Let's go and talk to each of those commissioners who represent those communities, and let's say, hey, you want to be a hero in your community, you want to be reelected, do something real for the community that will outlast you. Invest in this community center, and so 10 years from now, the people will still be talking your name because of the commitment that you made. And whatever it takes, let's get it done. Malcolm X, by any means necessary. That's where we are. You got President Trump. They doing what they doing. We got to do what we do. And we can't give up. This is not the time to run the other way. This is the time to dig down deep and fight for our community. Because if we're not going to do it, nobody else is.
Right. So what do you say to just say, for instance, you're able to do these communities this year?
Yeah. Hold on before you say that. We'll keep talking. Hold on.
And the community that wasn't getting it, how do you keep that? Because you know how black people can be sometimes.
Right.
Where they doing it over there, why they not doing it over here? So we're gonna tap over here till we get it done.
Right.
So how do you think what can be done because I understand you say like the budget.
Yeah.
It might be there for every neighborhood, but every neighborhood might have to take it year by year.
Yeah.
And so how can you, like, what would you think to keep the people patient and motivated enough to wait till they get it?
Yeah. So, I mean, you do that by, I think, as you are renovating those community centers, you would have extended programming, and you would still extend the hours and give those resources. Now, you don't need a new community center to have a food pantry. You don't need a new community center to have midnight basketball. You don't need a community center to have a computer room, because some of the young people may not have computers or the ability to get on the internet at the home. Come to the community center. And why you build out the new community center, still have those essential services operating out of community center while you are building up and refurbishing those centers. And so I think that's something that can be done. And also what I have seen done in other communities is that nearby churches will pitch in. And they will open up their doors. And so if there was something the community center couldn't provide, or when the community center is being worked on, you go to the neighboring church and they provide those services while the community center is in progress. So that's a great question, and you know, my thought process, where there's a will, there's a way. If we want to save our community, then everybody got to come on in. You know, the church just ain't for Sunday, right?
Right.
That's 7 days a week. So let's do it. Let's run it 7 days a week. Hey, Pastor, we need you to open up your church for this, that, and the other while we are finishing up this community center. You know, we just can't preach it. We got to walk the walk. Let's do it.
Now, when was the last time we seen that though?
You know, I would say I've seen some pastors do it and I've seen others not do it. But the whole thought process is when you call them out and when you say something to them, and when they see others doing it, you know, they get the drift. And I think this is a critical time now.
Yeah.
It's you know, it's like we may have lost our way, and we may have thought that we were in a different space, and we didn't have colored water fountains and, you know, Negroes over here, white folk over here. But you see what's going down.
Yeah.
Affirmative action cut. DEI gone. They chopping. They cutting. They taking away funding. And, you know, they're trying to pull us back to the Jim Crow era. And so now, you know, now's the time we got to come back together and realize, man, it's on.
And that's what, so how important, so the thing is about, and really what we're trying to push is the community to get back together, not necessarily focus on the politics and who's in office and what they can do for us, but how can we really actually use our, you know, our energy, our time, and you know, maybe our little bit of money to make change, you know, in the community and not have to wait on people to tell us what to do. Right. So where do you think we are with it? And I got another question after you answer that, but like, where do you think we are with it, and what can we do? What can we do to send out a mass message to let everybody know this is what we really need to be doing?
Well, you know, I think the mass message is going out now because every day President Trump is doing something to hurt us as a community, black people. And so it is, if you don't know, then you ought to know, or you're going to soon find out. You know, it's real. It's not a false alarm.
Yeah.
This is real deal. And so I think the wake-up call is there. And I just believe if we learn from our elders, we see what the Harry Belafonte, Sam Cooke, Muhammad Ali, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, in their prime, came together as entertainers and as basketball stars, and they funded Dr. King, funded Malcolm X, funded all of these groups that were out there laying it on the line for us. And although they may not have been out there with us, their pocketbooks and their wallets, they were out there bailing out folks who were arrested for sit-ins and you know, standing up and marching and protesting. And I think it's going to have to be a situation where we come together as a community now. We have more NBA millionaires and players than we did back then. So, you know, this is the time where we call on, you know, those who are able and who have the resources to say, hey man, the community is suffering, and although you may not feel it as much, Your cousins, your family, your children will likely feel it. So this is the time where we come together as a team, as a community, and we strategically find out what it's going to take to resist, to defend, and to make sure that we are in a position of progress and not go back.
Okay. Yeah. I just,
Because you saying that you come out, when you speaking to Trump, I was thinking about the Department of Education.
Yeah.
Is it better to put the power to the state? Because to me, it's like they just want to get rid of it and allot a certain amount of money to each state and then just let the state handle it.
Right. And you know, in the state of Tennessee, they have vouchers, and they're talking about coming and taking over the largest and blackest school district in the state. So I'm a little cautious when we say let the states handle everything. We've been there, we've seen that, especially again in the Jim Crow South, Alabama, Mississippi, Tennessee, Georgia, they were not friends to black people. Nor were they friendly to any of our issues. They wanted to maintain segregation. They wanted to maintain the status quo. And it took the federal government, Lyndon B. Johnson and John F. Kennedy and others, to come in and make the states do right. Now we got a president that wants to hand it back to those states. And I think it's just a reverse of history. We're going to go back to how it was before the federal government stepped in the 60s, passed the 64 Civil Rights Act, passed the 65 Voting Rights Act. You know, the U.S. Supreme Court at the time gave us Brown versus Board of Education, which integrated our schools. And so, you know, I think that the federal government stepping in is good. And what they're trying to say, the federal government is bad, we need to cut it and get rid of it. No, because then you get rid of the protections that we've enjoyed that have forced these states to do right by black people. And so if we're turning the power back over to them now, and they're continuing this path that they have now, it's not going to be good for us.
yeah.
So that's why I think a lot of things that he's signing his so-called executive orders.
Right.
I think it's a lot of underlying meaning for it.
Yeah.
Trying to make it sound good, but it's not as good as you think.
No, sir. No, sir.
Yeah,
not at all.
So
He going crazy with the executive order.
Every day is something new.
And I just feel like he, he got a lot of, the people that he put in office, he got more influence than them. Of course, Elon Musk, and that's kind of, I wanted to segue into that. He's building, I guess, this supercomputer in Memphis.
Right.
I heard people talk about how much it's going to bring jobs, but then I didn't think about this at first. They said if it's a supercomputer, it's going to actually cause a lot of radiation.
Right.
Towards South Memphis, maybe Orange Mound and a whole lot of surrounding areas. Is that could that possibly be a problem?
You know, I think that something of this magnitude is new even for him, Musk.
Right.
This is supposed to be one of the largest centers that's ever been created. And the scary part about it is we don't know what will happen. And that's part of the issue. We don't know.
Yeah.
There hadn't been this type of super center built, and we've had 10 years to study it, and we know the effects. So this is a big experiment. And so the point the people are making, don't experiment on us.
Right.
You know, we don't want to find out, this stuff is causing some cancer and, everybody is sick 10 years from now.
Yeah.
So give us more studies, let us know more of the real impact on our health and the community before you just plop it down in the middle of the community. And so I hear that, and I think that's legit. If you look in some areas in North Memphis and South Memphis, everybody in the neighborhood got cancer. Now everybody been breathing those pollutants that have been going into the air and into the soil for years.
Right.
And so 20, 30 years ago, they didn't know. But now we know. So I would just be cautious, and I would make sure that there are parameters and things in place to protect the community and make sure that there's not a contamination of the soil, of the water, of the air, and that there are measures in place to protect the community, I would feel a lot better with those measures in place to say if there is something wrong, at least we've done this to protect the community so we're not finding out the ramifications of the wrong 10 years from now and everybody is sick.
Right.
So that's my thought. Now, I don't have any problems with the new jobs, and we need work. You know, we need all of that. I hear at one point they're trying to build something to protect the aquifer because they don't want anything to spill down and ill affect our water supply. So, you know, I think those things are good. I just don't like black folks being experimented on. You know, that hasn't worked out well for us in the past.
Right.
Tuskegee and you know, other examples, right?
Right.
And so I'm just a little cautious about it, and we'll see where the council takes it, and hopefully they're hearing your podcast, and you know, they'll put some measures in place to protect the community.
Definitely. So
we're not talking about all the health issues a decade from now.
Yeah.
I don't think it's so much for the super center. When I heard about how they was going to cool it by using raw sewage, that plant, it'll put more harm in the air than the computer plant will.
Yeah.
And because I was actually in water purification at one point in the military.
Yeah.
So the certain osmosis program with certain machines, you actually burning raw sewage. When you think about raw sewage, that's all your methane, butane, and everything coming out your body.
Yeah.
Now they got to go in the air.
Yeah. You got to go
So
somewhere.
all that's going in the air just to purify that raw sewage water. So I think that would be more harmful than the super center itself.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. It's something. It's more than probably meets the eye. So we just need to get these issues out there and make sure that, you know, they're putting measures in place to protect us.
Yeah, because I want the community. I want us as black people to just start thinking. We don't have to always be told what to think and what to look out for. We got common sense.
Yeah.
We just don't use it. It's like,
Right.
And then we don't know what questions to ask. We think everything is, you know, good. Oh, Elon Musk. Man, I don't care nothing about dude. Like,
Right.
I don't think everything is a good idea.
Right.
You know, it's
Right.
just, you know, just because they bring us something to Memphis, it just doesn't mean it's something good.
Right.
Yeah,
But-
that'll be like, not to cut you off. If you do want to bring that to this area, why would you put it smack dab in the middle of the black neighborhood?
That's why I think it's some other than something they say is good. I think it's literally the opposite.
Exactly. So
Right.
you would think all this land outside the city.
Right. Land everywhere.
Why would you want to put it smack dab in the middle
Right.
of that neighborhood?
You know, the Blue Oval, they just went in the middle of nowhere almost.
You said who?
The Blue Oval, the Ford Motor Company. You know, it's in the middle of nowhere. It's just a wide open field out there, not necessarily any communities or neighborhoods. So you think if they were able to do that, and that's like a small city, you know, why could it not have been done for this? You just wonder, you know, what's really going on.
Yeah.
You know, but we'll see how it manifests. But I like having this conversation. Hopefully this reaches the ears of the council persons and
Oh, man, we're gonna
those
push.
who are here in charge.
Right.
And they'll make sure the community is protected at the end of the day.
Let me ask you this. So I'm hearing that they're about to change or revamp the old commercial appeal building.
Yeah.
And turn it into a hospital.
Yeah.
You talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So it's funny you bring that up. I'm actually doing work. I'm actually in-house on the team that's helping with the new rebuild for
Okay.
Regional 1. As a commissioner, I fought for Regional 1. And if you go there, you'll understand why. The trauma center is under a bridge that are on stilts. So when we do have the earthquake, the big one that we're supposed to have, that bridge comes down.
When was supposed to?
I mean, you know, we don't know. We don't know. We were supposed to have had it by now.
Okay.
But that bridge drops down on the trauma center, and the trauma center gone. So if there are casualties and fatalities and emergency issues resulting from an earthquake, you can't go to your #1 trauma center in the region now because it's taken out.
Right.
So, you know, part of the thought is you got to move the trauma center, the NICU center, the burn center into an area that's safe and protected And so that's how the commercial Peel building comes up. It's an eyesore, obviously. It was there for the pandemic, and they were sort of using that as one of the pandemic hospitals for all the COVID-19 issues. And so what will happen is that the commercial appeal building will come down. I know people talked about environmental issues. The environmental study has been done. It's no different than any other place where you're going to build a commercial site.
Right.
Any environmental issues can be remediated. And so basically you have the trauma center, NICU, burn center in an area that's protected from any type of seismic catastrophe, and that's a good thing. It's still also within what we call the Memphis Medical District. You know, Southwest College is there, then UT Medical Center starts here, LeBonner and Methodist is down the way. Baptist has a presence, and they have a medical school there as well. So you're still in the mix, and it's turning what we would, view as eyesore dead property into something that's usable and something that is sort of a gateway into downtown. So obviously I'm all for the project.
Right.
And now what they've done is try to pit the project of the new hospital against the jail. If you've seen stories about that recently.
New jail.
And so the answer to that is there's no conflict. The wheel tax funds the hospital, and a sales tax will fund the jail. Right. So they come from two different sources of income, and we need both.
Right.
Every couple of weeks we're seeing a death in the jail.
Right.
For one reason or the other, and so we need to address that issue too. But I don't think it's something that should be pitted against the other. We need both. And so that's where I am on that issue. I'm happy that the county commission has started the process. Again, I pushed for it before I turned out, and I was happy that the new city county commission and the mayor took it up, and they're pushing for it.
Yeah.
So if they do build a new regional one, what happens to the old one?
So that building is aged out. It's about 100 years old, and it's really, it can't be used as a hospital anymore. And so that has to come down. And then what happens is that property is next to Methodist and the medical school. Those campuses could likely be extended to take over that area that has come down because there's no good use for it can't be used as a hospital any longer. But you can tear it down and build up extensions to either Methodist or to UT Medical School.
I had so me and my nephew were just talking. So my nephew is going through a situation. I wanted to bring this up real quick. And I wanted to see how is it that something like this, or if you even had a plan for this when you was running for mayor. So he was dealing with some kidney issues. Actually, he's looking for a donor, somebody that can get him a kidney. Going through dialysis probably every other day. So now he just got let go from his job because he couldn't come to work. He was sick. He's on disability.
Oh wow.
So now he has to go through this whole thing of, well, you can't really get a job because they won't let you work enough hours. And what was it that you was telling me, nephew? You said you was talking about how much your dialysis is.
Yeah, just if I was fully independent, I have to go pay the insurance fully out of my pocket and all that. So it's like a holdback really.
Yeah.
They take care of you, but it's a holdback because they know it's not enough.
Right.
But at the same time, it's not enough.
Yeah.
You can't go do too much for yourself.
Yeah. Wow.
So with medical, with the healthcare, is it anything to combat that? Like, is there something that I guess in your mind that could possibly be, I guess, a solution for that, for something like that?
Well, man, that's a tough issue, and there is an answer for it. And the answer is, America needs to get on pace with other developed countries. And I was talking with a lady the other day. She moved to Australia, and I think what the lady was telling me, she's had 2 lung transplants in Australia. Here's the thing. For organ donations here in America, you have to opt in. you have to say, yes, I want to donate my organs. In other countries, you automatically are placed in, and you have to opt out.
Wow.
So in other developed countries, hear what I'm saying, you are automatically placed on organ donation list. And so there are, more, organs that are available for their people, and they can ship those out to other places because it's an automatic push to be in the program and you opt out. Here, giving individuals the option just slows down the process, and we are in a position where we don't have as many organs that can be used for transplants and other issues. So I think if America and the healthcare system adopted what they do in other European countries, I think we could see a big change in those who are in need of kidneys and other organs. And, that's an issue to lobby. Again, you're speaking to the people through your podcast.
Right.
This is something that needs to go to our congressmen, our senators.
Right.
We need to, take it to DC. But there's an answer. There's a solution. You automatically are opted into this program for organ donation. Many people don't even think about it.
My only question for that is my only concern.
Yeah.
Is black people.
Yeah.
So if we all opt in, do you think we would kind of be a target? And when I say a target, like, you understand what I'm saying. Like, people are dying just to get their organs.
No, I don't think so, because if everyone is doing it, then I don't think it would just be a target for us. Because, again, all American citizens would be doing it. And, we're not the majority of the U.S. population, obviously. So the majority of the folks in the program would be non-African American. So I don't think it would just be a target on us.
Right.
But I think that's an answer to it, and it might be in this situation. We always look in America, but perhaps there's a way to look outside of America for organ donations or transplants. If we're dealing with what we're dealing with here in America, and I know there are long lists and they're is backed up and it's not where it needs to be, and our healthcare system has a lot of issues. And it seems like other countries, even Canada and Mexico, our neighboring countries, they do better than we do. Way better. And so I don't think it is too outside the realm of possibility to look at some of these other countries, man. I think there's an answer for it. We just gotta push it.
Right?
Because I was sure thinking, what would you think it would take for the United States to catch up with Canada, where all healthcare is free?
That's what I'm saying, man. It's like they want to kill us.
Yeah, it's because
they want us dead, man. I mean,
it's like
we supposed to.
I look at it as a greed thing sometimes. Wait a minute, because if the healthcare become free, what happens to all them billionaire CEOs?
Well, you see the dude that did what he did.
Yeah, Ganglione, was that his name?
Yeah, that guy. And I don't condone any homicide like that, but the issue is that, man, when you make healthcare for profit like it is, it appears in some instances profits are being placed over people, and that's not in every situation. But you just can kind of see it play out, man. You paying more for insurance, but you getting less benefits.
Right.
Yeah, because I think it was one.
How does that make sense?
I forgot it was a representative of a congressman or something, but he was speaking upon it. He said it really messed up when they allowed the computers to decide what gets approved. You can submit your paperwork, but the computer say no. It's not like you're not talking to a person anymore.
Correct. So, there's a lot to work on, and hats off to President Barack Obama. He started the process, and others tried to stop it and get rid of it and slow it down. At least we got Obamacare, but we really need to, because part of the original Obamacare Act was for universal health care, I think, in one reading of it. And that's what we need. We're the most developed, most technologically advanced country in the world. And we have all these preventable deaths because we won't just adopt a simple plan that other countries have adopted with less than what we have. less scientists, less technology, less doctors, less medical schools. Yet we are suffering from things that they've handled 10, 20, 30 years ago. So, you know, man, we need to push this, and it impacts us in the African American community in some instances a lot more than what we are seeing in some of the other communities. So, you know, I think that's a fight that we undertake, and that's something that we need to put out there on the forefront. That issue is just as important as other issues. Right. You know, my father, before he passed, was on dialysis. So, right. You know, it's really affected most of our families in some way. This healthcare situation.
Sometimes I think it's kind of it could be dangerous to talk about, you know, more of a holistic approach. I have a holistic diet. That's all I take is herbs. I take cures for everything. I'm healthy as a horse. I had some issues, and I said to myself, since I know the disparities that Black people have really with everything, especially healthcare, let me try to do preventative maintenance and not even get sick. I don't even trust the hospitals no more. I done seen moms get mistreated. I done seen him get mistreated. I done seen everybody get mistreated. And didn't get really nothing. So, and I'm just give me an honest answer. How do you think Paul is doing right now, as of right now?
You know, I'll give him just on a report card. If we could put it in sections, I think he'll get A's on some things, B's on some things, and C's, or maybe even a C minus on other things. So I think that the focus on going into the communities and the town hall meetings and really listening to what the community has to say, you know, that's an A. I think the handling of the DOJ report and, you know, really tackling the issues which led to the horrific death of Tyree Nichols, you know, that's a C minus. You know what I mean? The DOJ is saying, hey, you got some issues here. Let's work together and enter this consent decree, and let's try and get something worked out. The reason that I don't give him a failing grade or D or F is because I do have a lot of respect for Judge Bernice Donald, and he's turned to her to sort of be what the consent decree would be. So I think that C or that C minus could very well become a B or even an A if it's done correctly. Because again, you're talking to a former federal judge, former Sixth Circuit appellate judge, who has a heart for the community, is from this community, Bernice Donald, and for Marion to tap her to address this DOJ issue is big in the legal community, and I think that hopefully we can see some solutions come out of that. And so, you know, he's still early in his administration. But to me, those have been the two issues. How would he do with the community and reaching out to the community and, you know, what's going on and you know, the crime. Because he had two issues. You had a high crime issue, but then you had Tyree Nichols. And so you got the squad out here trying to address crime, and they kill an innocent man. They beat him to death. But the crime is still something that we as a community want to address. So how are you going to figure out the two? So going into community policing, talking with, you know, everyone in the community, I think has been good on addressing crime, and crime has gone down to his credit, A. You know what I'm saying? But again, on this other issue, dealing with the DOJ report and how, you know, law enforcement in some instances and in some communities abuse the community, and they don't serve and protect the community, you know, that's still an issue. He kept C.J. Davis. Some people were saying, hey, Tyree Nichols and the high crime happened under her watch. She should be gone. He opted to keep her, and it's panned out that, you know, perhaps that was the right move because the crime has gone down. And if she works with Judge Donald, like I hope she will, to address what the DOJ report says, then that would be a good thing. So right now, I would say B minus overall. And you know, although I lost the race and it was very painful to lose the race, I'm still a Memphian and I love Memphis. So, you know, I gotta, you know, push for his success, because his success is success for Memphis.
Right.
Success for my kids that are coming up in this city. So, you know, that's why I am on that issue, and I think there's a path forward for him to get an A and to do well. And I think he's working as hard as he can towards that goal, and I support that. And so let's just see what happens.
On that DOJ, you think you would have gave him a higher rating had he went through it before he gave a remark to it?
Yeah, I think so. I think perhaps better analysis or spending more time with what the study said before would have been good, and perhaps not being so defensive would have been, you know, good. But you know, we'll see. It's a gamble.
Yeah.
You know, there ain't no right answer in this thing because it's real time.
Yeah, because
It's real time.
that was my time. Like, if you not reviewed it, you shouldn't be trying to make
Talking
remarks and responding to it.
Right. So, you know, they got that big multi-million-dollar lawsuit that's hanging out there too with Attorney Trump. So part of how they posture on everything is to address how they're going to address that lawsuit as well. So there's a lot that goes into kind of the position that they're in, and I understand that from a legal perspective. But at the end of the day, as three black men, we don't want to be pulled over and treated like Mr. Nichols, and we don't want none of our male or female children, cousins, nieces, nephews, sons, daughters to be treated and have to go through what Robon Wells went through.
Right.
So, you know, this is something we got to get right. We should never have to experience another Tyree Nichols ever in this community. And if we have the ability to ensure that, we need to do everything humanly possible to ensure that doesn't happen again.
We're probably two parts. The getting rid of the qualified immunity and the lawsuit, instead of coming out the taxpayer, is come from their own personal retirement thing. Do you think that'll help clean the policing up a little bit?
Yeah, obviously. And that'll be a lot that has to happen from a federal standpoint. And, you know, obviously the federal government, as it's situated now, ain't gonna do nothing like that. But I think if there was more on the line to lose, you would have a different perspective. Something in the back of your mind would say, man, I'm going to lose everything if I hit this dude or stump this dude on the ground one more time without justification. And you let up, you know, because you know it's all on the line. Not just my personal freedom, I'm going to jail, but everything that you saved, everything that's put away for your children, your wife, your family, I know all this wiped away because I'm making this stupid decision right now.
Right.
You know, hopefully something would just strike an individual at that certain point in the heat of the moment to just pull back. You know, if they just would have pulled back and Tyree would have lived, we would not have been
Probably wouldn't have heard
in
about
that national news like what we are now. I mean, you know, it was just so hard to watch that and go through that, man. That was really tough. So
I can understand for the things can happen in instance. I get that.
Yeah.
It would be more geared to it like that cop that he already got in his head before he go, I'm finna get somebody tonight.
Yeah.
Them the really type I was actually referring to. Anything can happen at given time out there. I get that. But you got in your head you're gonna do it. You should suffer everything.
Yeah, absolutely, man. That's murder. And I don't know what happened with this federal case, you know, but that was cold-blooded murder, man.
Right.
The guy was not fighting back.
Right.
You look at the tape, man. He gone.
He trying to run.
I'm telling you, he trying to run, and when you catch him, he gone. I mean, the man just up there. You just beating him like a dummy, like you in the gym or something, man.
And I don't know which one said it, but when the parts of the tape I did see, what after the aftermath, one of them like, I tried to knock his off.
Right.
He's still laying there. You bragging about it?
Right.
To me, you meant to do that.
Yeah, that's inhumane. So it's just tough, man. Now imagine your son or your brother on the ground where Tyree Nichols is. Man, you lose your mind.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and so it's it's like they know when to do it.
Yeah.
And then
Right.
if you do the reverse thing like a time to kill. You're not gonna get off like Samuel Jackson.
Nah.
You see?
Nah.
So now the family member caught up because now
Right.
your essence is to protect your family.
Right.
Now you done did it, you done showed me, and I can't touch you.
Right.
That's killing that person there also.
Killing them on this side. Fight fair.
So,
Yeah, it's tough, but what you suggested, I think would slow a lot of that down.
you saying at least
That would slow it down.
so
You would think about it twice.
yeah,
But we definitely finna just push to let our voice be heard. That we just don't. When I seen that, man, I say it all the time. I'm like, oh, okay, we doing this in Memphis now, and these are black cops doing it.
Yeah.
And then it's like what are we doing for real? Who are we hiring? What type of training that we had? Like what is this for real? And I knew for certain they was gonna get off. For some reason I was like, man, they getting off. I just don't. I got to the point where I don't have really no faith in no type of justice system at all, even in Memphis.
Right.
But I do believe in the people of Memphis.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And if there's a candidate out there that was running like yourself that believe in the hearts and the minds of the people,
Yeah.
just like when the superintendent got into the situation, there was all these people voted her to stay.
Right.
They didn't listen to the people.
Yeah.
So, I mean, how much of the people's voice goes into the decisions that they make?
Yeah. No, that's a good question. I think you have to listen to the people, and you have to communicate with the people. And if there were some things that we didn't see as it relates to Dr. Fagans, that that needs to be really told from top down, bottom up, explain what the issues are, so that we know what's going on internally, and it's not just what you know. And so I just think from a standpoint of having to endure that and watch that play out in real time was painful. It was tough to watch those meetings, man. And but then it was tough for the folks who were protesting to make it personal, because at the end of the day, you can say I don't like your decision, but not have to talk about you personally.
Right. Right.
You know what I'm saying? There's a way to do that, and we have to learn to speak to one another, even when we disagree. We have to have a level of respect. You know what I'm saying? And so I didn't like that. And even if you agreed or disagreed with Fagans, there was a way to approach that and to talk to those board members. You got black women calling other black women everything under the sun.
Right.
Now come on. At the end of the day, we sisters.
Right.
And we brothers. And after all of this, all we got are us.
That's it.
You know what I'm saying? And so we gonna still have to live together, whether Fagin stayed or left, because we here. You know what I'm saying? And some of this stuff you doing is saying it's gonna be tough to take it back, or for the other person to deal with you now. I mean, you saw some of them comments, man. They were out of control.
Man, I was looking at them. They were going crazy.
Out of control, man. And so I'm like, nah, man, this is uncouth. There's a way to debate and to address something the right way, but you don't have to do what you do. It got out of hand. So, it just overall, it was just a tough thing to go through. Now, personally, I like Rod Richmond, the guy that's there now.
Yeah.
He was up for the superintendency probably about a decade ago, and he didn't get it. And I say that because I actually worked with Dr. Richmond when I was in-house. You read my resume there. I was in-house legal for the school system for a stint, and I worked with Dr. Richmond, and he's a stand-up guy from the community. Worked his way from the bottom to the top. Started out in the classroom, and went step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, all the way up to where he was as a deputy superintendent under Criner Cash. And we had good results back then. Although people felt a certain way about Dr. Cash, the school system overall was in a good place. And Dr. Richmond was, as the academic advisor and deputy superintendent, a person that had a lot to do with that. So I knew that he could do it. I just hate how he went into it, but I have a lot of faith in him. And again, the way that he got there may not have been ideal, but you know, the brother has a heart for the community. I'm willing to give him a try. I've seen his work up close, and I think that he can pull it together, and I hope that he's allowed to do so.
When we had Will Simon on the show, he spoke on that. He spoke highly of him too. And I was puzzled at the fact that he has all this experience, but they still chose somebody that was way less experienced.
So, you know, less experience and then outside of Shelby County.
Outside of the
And that's the politics. And you know, we're gonna speak politics here just a tad bit. And I'm not in there and I don't know.
Right.
But what I will say on the outside looking in, you had, you know, a friend, Dr. George Ray, unfortunately had those issues to occur from a personal standpoint, which spilled over and affected him professionally. Local homegrown superintendent, he gone. So the thought process is we ain't gonna go local anymore.
Wow. Okay.
We gonna go outside because the last local person we did, we got burned. And so now we gonna go outside, and although they may not have as much experience and not be local, we tried the local thing and it didn't work out. Let's go outside now. And so all the local candidates weren't even downlisted. They weren't even allowed to apply in some instances.
Right.
Wasn't just Dr. Richmond, there were other folks who were local. And so they were just excluded from the process, and they went outside and they ended up with what they ended up with. And so, you know, that's a lesson, right?
Yeah.
Let her preach.
Yeah.
What one man does don't mean the next man gonna do the same thing.
Right.
It's almost like you dating a woman, and I've been married, thank God, to my beautiful wife. We met when we were 14. I've been married, she gonna beat me up if I don't get this right. I've been married 23 years on August 3rd.
She gonna beat you up anyway for thinking about it.
Anyway. So, sorry, baby. But it's almost like, man, once that woman get burned by one brother, man, it's die. You gotta move heaven, hell, earth, the space, the cosmos, everything to get her to trust again, right?
I'm telling you.
I'm not dude.
Right.
That ain't me. I come in peace. You know, and so it's just once you scorn, it's hard to go back. So they excluded all the local folks and they went with Dr. Fagans, and you know, now we're back to a local guy. And you know, I say all that to say that, you know, I don't think Dr. Richmond would do what we've seen that's done in the past. And again, you know, he who is not sin cast the first stone. You know, we've all had issues, but for the grace of God, you know, we made it through.
Right.
And so I think Dr. George Ray did some great things for the district. At a certain point in time when, you know, he was having to fight the governor over saving lives, the governors were saying, you know, get those teachers back in school, the hell with the pandemic, so on and so forth. Dr. Ray was like, nah, man, I'm not going to send my folks to school and kill them. The teachers or the students. So, you know, he actually stood toe to toe with the governor on that issue. So, like I said, some good things. We've all had personal shortcomings, just but for the grace of God, you know, we had, you know, ended up suffering, you know, like others have suffered for what we've done.
Right.
And so, you know, I applaud and I thank Dr. Ray for the good that was done. It was painful for him to go through what he went through, and I hate how he went out, but what happened, happened. And so we cannot say Dr. Richmond shouldn't be given a chance because of what's happened in the past with other local, you know, male superintendents that have served the district. So let's give a brother a shot. I think he's gonna do well. And I said all that to say perhaps that's why they didn't go with some of the local experienced folks right after Ray, and they went outside and they had this big superintendent search, and you ended up with what you ended up with.
Right.
Were they doing the same thing with CJ Davis?
Yeah. You know, there were some good local candidates, and they went outside, and there was some politics as well. And you know, outside ain't bad, you know, in some instances, but you know, what we got here is good too. No, give Memphis a shot.
Yeah, but I feel like you need to.
Yeah.
Like Memphis, one of the places you need to know. Like you need to understand the mindset of the people. Like this ain't you don't come here and it's just like everybody else. You need to be here.
Yeah, you gotta learn. Yeah, you gotta know what you're doing.
You're right.
Yeah, you can step in it. you could be on one street in Orange Mound.
Yeah.
And say something and do something, and then you go over to a couple of streets and you in trouble. It's just what it is. You know what I'm saying? Whitehaven is Whitehaven, but you know, I remember, man, Whitehaven football team went to a Fairleigh game, and Whitehaven and Fairleigh right next to each other. You know, Memphis, man, them Fairleigh Bulldogs chased us all up and down the street to get the hell up out of Fairleigh. You know what I'm saying? Oh, we know these guys, but you know, it was what it was. You know, you from Whitehaven, you over in Fairleigh, you know. That's what it was. But we all in Whitehaven, right? So you just got to know that. Fairleigh to Westwood to Mitchell.
Right.
Whitehaven to Hillcrest. It's all love, you know, but you got to know what you're doing.
You do believe that, so you believe that the issues, you can't take North Memphis issues and apply them to Whitehaven.
No, you can't.
And vice versa.
It's different.
Yeah.
It's like you got 5 or 6 cities within a city.
Right. Within a small city.
Within a small city.
Yeah.
So, you know, you just got to approach it that way. Now, again, Chief Davidson held on. You know, she taking the hits and she's sticking and moving, flowing like, you know, Muhammad Ali. You know, and she's still here and crime is down. And let's see what she does with this DOJ. So, you know, let's allow the jury to continue to hold out and deliberate before we give our final conclusion. It may be a gamble that worked out with her, although we may have had some misgivings or, you know, some reluctance, but you know, you can't argue with results. So let's see what happens. I know her personally. She's a great lady.
Right.
Good heart, you know, wants to do the best job that she can do. The Tyree Nichols issue was unfortunate. And remember, before Tyree Nichols, you had the guy that went on the rampage with the gun, you know, the guy that just went crazy that one day. Then you had Liza Fletcher. I think that guy's name was Ezekiel or something like that.
Yeah.
So, you know, there's been a couple of hits.
Right.
You had Eliza Fletcher. You had that guy that really locked the city down, went on a shooting spree. Then you had Tyree Nichols. So it's been a rough go for her. And so we'll just see how it all ends. But again, if you love the city and want the best for the city, if she's there, you know, you got to say, hey, get it done.
Right.
You know, push, get it done.
Right.
Would you allow them to claim insanity? People that goes on the rampage, even if it's drug induced or something?
You know, that's a tough question. Now, I'm gonna give you 2 questions. From a personal standpoint as a civilian and not as a lawyer, an officer of the court, no, my answer to that is hell no, man.
No.
You know, my daughter laying on the ground, my son laying on the ground dead. No, man, I don't care what you own.
Right.
You know, my daughter, my son didn't do anything to you, and you just shot them in cold blood. That's your visceral reaction. Like, man, no. You know, from a legal standpoint, and hear what I'm saying, you have to allow the Constitution and the law to work out. Because there was a stint here in America for 40 or 50 years. If you were a black man, it didn't matter what you said. You were gonna get lynched, castrated, burned alive, and that's just what it was.
Right.
The lynch mob was the judge, juror, and executioner. And in so many cases, man, these brothers and sisters were innocent. You know what I mean? So just from a legal standpoint, understanding this country, Strange Fruit, what Nina Simone sung about, you know, you gotta say, hey man, although I may not like it in every instance, and if it personally affects me, I'm not gonna like it. Overall, we've seen a time in this country where they just threw that out the window and you look like you did it. I'm gonna hang you up on this tree. How many of our ancestors experienced that? You know, like I said, my mother from Mississippi. It was real down there.
Yeah.
You know, and I had cousins and uncles here in Memphis, and there's stories of those in Mississippi. They spoke up and didn't take it. You know, that night they up in Chicago, St. Louis, Detroit, they gotta go.
Yeah.
Because if you stay down there, you gone. Because wasn't no jury.
Yeah, once they caught you,
court of
that
law.
was it.
Once they caught you, you're dead.
It's over.
So that's why I say let me speak at it from two angles. As a daddy, I wouldn't like it if it was my wife or my child. But as a lawyer and an officer of the court, I gotta say, man, this is what's in place to protect us. Because if the tables were turned, you want it to work for you and to be protected. Especially if there's some innocence there, if there's a real issue there.
So, how's that, by being an attorney, how do you get not to be biased? Or is there some cases you would not want to take because of that?
Yeah. So some cases you can turn down. Like there's certain cases I won't touch. Just because I have a personal bias. I'm just not gonna mess with it. You know, if you're dealing with, you know, and I don't really do a lot of criminal defense work anyhow, but you know, if it's you know, dealing with child abuse or, you know, battery, you know, stuff like that, that's just something I choose not to deal with.
Yeah.
You know, sexual assault, I'm not the one. I'm biased against that.
Right. So it's just best don't even call.
I wouldn't handle that. As a husband, as a father, no. I can't defend you zealously. You know what I'm saying? That's just not what I can do. So I choose not to take that case. So in some instances, there are cases where you just can't, you know, you just say because of my bias and because of I am what I am, and I just won't take that case.
That just sounds like that's the first time you ever attorney with a conscience.
Yeah, man.
No, you don't. Some people, how much you got?
Right.
But the level that he's at, though, and you handle business too, right?
Yeah, I do business law too.
So like, how are you like?
Yeah, work your business and do things like that. And,
we friends now, so I can
right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, eyes light up.
Yeah, man. Hey, man.
Yeah, you know, during COVID, for a certain period of time, folks couldn't pay they rent, and you know they were getting kicked out. And I had a couple of landlords approach me, and they want to kick the people out. I was like, nah, man, you know, this stuff is real. You know, the job is gone, the people not working. This disease is out here killing people. They can't pay. You know, there were different programs that were allowing landlords to get money for tenants they couldn't pay. You know, go check out one of these programs, but I don't want to be the one to personally kick these people out on the street. So even on the civil side, I would turn down certain cases during that time when it was just something that I just disagreed with personally. You know, if you know, God has blessed me to have the ability to work other matters and not have to be forced to deal with that just to make a living. So I choose not to deal with that.
I actually want to get you back on the show because it's a lot of legal stuff that I definitely want to talk about. And I think a lot of people got questions about. I do got one question about that. There's a company, I think, or organization called, I think it's the MAA or something like that.
Yeah.
And they I think they was price gouging people's rent.
Yeah.
So it was like an incentive for companies to, you know, basically just take people's rent up for no reason.
Yeah.
And so it started to come out, and people started realizing y'all are illegally charging us extra for rent.
Right.
Like, how do you know anything about that?
No, I hadn't heard it, but yeah.
Well, I'm still kind of. My mom actually put me on it because she started seeing the logo on a lot of her mail, and she started digging into it. And they were like, "Yeah, they played with our rent."
Yeah, what happened was, from my understanding, a lot of like the low income housing, a lot of companies out of Florida bought them, and they started that the rent increase was based on Florida prices, and the Florida area prices what it would look like. They would look up like the size of the apartment, because this happened to my sister. That's why she left hers. Once they took it over, she was going to go from like $850 to $1,600, and it was because of the outside companies from other states buying it.
Right.
And they looking at it. Well, this is a 3-bedroom, 16 square foot, and here where we at, it goes for this price. And so that's what they were doing it.
Yeah.
And I realized that this in the middle of Fraser.
Right.
That's why she left Fraser.
Wow.
That's from my understanding when that happened.
Well, it is some other stuff.
I researched that, and we'll discuss that in the next segment.
Okay.
I'd love to look into that and talk about that with you.
Gotcha. We're not gonna hold you too much longer. I do got one last thing, man. What advice would you give, young people that either want to get into politics or want to become, get into leadership in Memphis?
In order to lead, you first have to serve. And if you're a good servant of the people will push you in that direction anyway. And that's kind of what happened with me. I didn't wake up and just say, hey man, I want to be mayor, I want to run for county commission. I was a servant at first.
Right.
And my heart was in the right place and I was willing to put in the work. With politics, Judge Arthur T. Bennett told me one day when I asked him what would it take to be elected and to be a judge, he says, well man, you got to work in everybody else's campaign. Really work in everyone else's campaign, and then when it's time for you to run, they'll remember you.
Right.
And so I took that to heart. So when I moved back here from law school in 2002, man, I got to work. I'm out in the hot Memphis heat, putting signs in yards, knocking on doors, passing out literature, phone banking. President Barack Obama running, I'm phone banking. I'm knocking on doors, man. I'm working. I remember we did a midnight hit where we wanted everyone to wake up the next morning and Obama signs were everywhere. So I'm getting up at 1 a.m. and man, we all out in Whitehaven, Westwood, everywhere, dropping Obama signs in the middle of the night, working. And so, and so what happens is eventually you just work, you serve, and when that position comes open, the people will come to you. Hey, you ever thought about this? You would be a wonderful person in this position, and that's how it happened. But I didn't go into the process thinking, well, hey, I wanted to be this. I just wanted to be a servant and to really, help the community in the best way that I could help the community, and so I did. And I was blessed to be elected and to serve. And you still got served when you get to that level, right? The service continues. You just have the ability to serve better and to serve with more tools.
Right.
But in the Bible they say if you're faithful over the small things, God will bless you with bigger things.
Yeah.
If I'm faithful with putting this sign in your yard, if I'm faithful with knocking on this door like I told you I was gonna do, then God will be in the position to bless you with being over a budget to where you can then sow resources and sow seeds in the community with the budget that you had as a county commissioner, still doing the same thing, but being blessed and being responsible enough to continue that, when you got to a higher level. And so to all the young people out there, that's the formula.
Right.
That's the magic formula. Serve first, and then the people that you serve will push you into that role. You won't even have to ask them; they'll ask you.
Right.
Yeah.
Y'all heard that? Y'all don't have to listen. All you have to do is put in the work. It's easy to be. You're more noticeable when you're serving. When you're always for yourself, nobody notices. When you're always doing things that really serves no purpose, nobody notices. But if you go out, first of all, that's a principle of mine. Like I love team building. Anything that I do, I want to build a team around it, and hopefully I can get maybe some opportunities to other people.
Right.
I just don't believe nothing else works other than togetherness, right? And serving. You serve them same people that you're gonna want support from. They're gonna give it right back to you instead of going into something thinking just because you are who you are, people gonna support you. Don't work like I found out. I ain't gonna say the hard way. I guess I had to go through that just to see. Okay, that's how it works.
That's how it works.
That's how it works, man.
Sort of like getting a promotion at the job. You had to work first, didn't it?
Yeah, man, you gotta work for it. Sometimes you gotta volunteer. You gotta stay late, come in there. That's how it works.
You gotta put the work in.
But man, this has been another episode of Universal Thought Podcast. Van, I appreciate it, brother. I really do. This is my new lawyer friend, man. It's good to know people in high places. And we finna talk a lot of business, and y'all gonna see him on part 2 of this episode, man. So we'll see y'all on the next episode, man. You did.
Thank you.